Ignore my messy bed, but I'm just going to talk about a couple of the things that we do differently and why we do them differently. I believe that modern parenting is ineffective at best and harmful to kids at worst. So here are the ways we're giving our kids like a 90s childhood to help them get ahead in life. So the first thing is personal electronics. iPads, iPods, iPhones, anything with an I in front of it. Yodos, Tony boxes, like any of those personal electronics that kids have possession over that are theirs. We don't do that. All the electronics in our home are either tools for mom and dad for work and for life, or they're for entertainment. And when they're for entertainment, it is a family device that we all share as a family. How we've done that so far, and this may change as we get different kiddos in our home, but we have a family computer that is in the dining room that kids can request to use at any reasonable time. Of course, if we're doing homework or if we're having a family dinner, then that's not a good time to be on electronics. But any reasonable time they request to have time on the computer, as long as they have that privilege, then they're more than welcome to do that. That way it is safe. It is where I can see it. It's where I know that they are using the computer safely and age appropriately. We also have a television and we use that. It's in the family room. We don't have TVs in our bedrooms. That's not a thing we do. The other thing is we don't do Netflix. We don't do Hulu. We don't do Amazon Prime, like none of the little like subscriptions. To me, it feels really, really silly to pay for something that I only use half of and I don't even own. So we do DVDs and CDs and like hard form media, or we were gifted a Roku stick and we can use YouTube to watch like YouTube videos like Crash Course or whatever. And this also helps mitigate some of the like screen time argument stuff that can go down in homes, because I don't worry about it. If a kid wants to watch a DVD, like the DVD is max 2 hours and then they're going to be up and playing with something else again. So that's kind of how we handle media. And then that way I know that I really only keep the DVDs in my house that I feel comfortable letting kids watch. Things that are grown-up only movies are kept in a separate space so that they don't have access to them, or up high where they can't reach. So that's kind of how we handle the movies. The next thing is chores. Everybody in my house has a reasonable expectation of contribution to the household and taking care of it. So if you are old enough to walk, you are old enough to help with chores. And that sounds really silly, but toddlers can put shoes by the door. They can pick blocks up and put them back. They can help you sort the silverware. Here's a spoon, it goes with the spoons. Here's a fork, it goes where the forks go. Of course, you keep the knives and sharp things away and it's supervised. But if you are old enough to walk, you're old enough to contribute to the mess, which means you're old enough to contribute to cleaning up the mess. And this is just so that my kids can learn to notice that things are messy and pick them up over time. And so that they can leave my home knowing how to cook and knowing how to clean and knowing what soap goes in the dishwasher and what goes in the washing machine. You'd be alarmed at the amount of people I've had as roommates and friends in college who, like, I taught how to do laundry because they didn't have a family that taught them. So I feel like I'm doing them a disservice if I don't give them chores. Now, are they going to be doing chores all day long? No. Are they going to help me do every single load of dishes? No. There's a reasonable expectation there based on age and their schedule and their needs as well. One of the other things we do that's like 90s parenting, I guess, is that I am not going to do anything for a child that they can do for themselves under normal circumstances. So normal circumstances is nobody's sick, all your needs are met, and we have like a normal daily routine going on, right? So here's an example of that. We're all sitting down at family dinner and kid A says, "Mom, can you get me some water?" God gave you legs. No, I'm not going to get you some water. Now, here's how I can do that as a parent, right? I have glasses that I'm not afraid of them breaking. If they break, not a big deal. I'll get a new one, right? I keep cups where they can reach them so that they can physically go get a glass of water. We have a step stool so they can bring it over to the sink and reach the water faucet. So there are things you have to do to accommodate your space and accommodate your lifestyle to enable children to do whatever they can for themselves. But if you're capable of putting a shirt or pants on yourself, I'm not going to dress you. I just feel like that does a disservice to the child. If you can do it yourself, then you're doing it yourself. That's kind of how I feel about it. Of course, different circumstances and and different situations can change that from time to time. And then the other 90s thing I'm doing is outside time and being bored. You will spend lots of time outside because it is good for you to be outside. We have outside games, we have outside toys, we have bikes and bike helmets, we have all kinds of things to make sure that you can play outside and be safe. When you are young, that will be supervised. But when you are old enough to drive, kids don't have any modicum of like privacy or freedom anymore. So I think it's important to give them little bits of that. When you're old enough to drive and you can be trusted, I'm not going to track your every move, because if you have the privilege of keys and a car, then obviously I trust you enough to drive. So do I expect you to tell me when you're going to be home and like who you're going to hang out with? Yeah, I want to know that you're not like hanging out with a serial killer and like home at a decent time. But I don't like the idea of tracking kids' every move. I want kids to have some modicum of like privacy and independence as they get older. And then with younger kids, how I do that is I give them situations where they can go and do stuff themselves. So here's an example. If I have a 12-year-old and they are a little bit nervous about like speaking in front of people or like talking to other grown-ups, over time we're going to talk about like, oh, like if you were to be in this grocery line getting the groceries, like what would you say first and how would you pay for groceries, you know? And you kind of talk through scenarios like that. And then when you get to a point where it's in a situation where like they are capable and they are just a little nervous, and I'm not talking about like extreme anxiety or trauma, of course, but you take them to a coffee shop and you sit right outside and you give them the money and you have them pick whatever they want in that coffee shop and pay for it themselves. And that's like a way that you can give them independence in an age appropriate way. So I am all about give the kid opportunities to express independent thought and independent action without you hovering. And I know that there's like different rules in different states about how old kids can be left alone or how old kids can be given independence. And I think some of that does a disservice to children, but I understand why, of course. So that's the other thing that we do is we empower our kids to be independent by not doing things for them that they can do themselves and by encouraging them to take over and be independent in scenarios. Another example is calling to make a doctor's appointment. That's something that like I had to figure out as an adult. So like talking through with a 13 or 14-year-old and saying, oh, like it's time for the annual doctor's appointment. Do you remember your doctor's name? How would we find your doctor's phone number? How would you make an appointment at a doctor's office? Awesome, we're going to practice and I'll be right here with you, but you get to talk to the secretary and you let them make mistakes and you let them struggle through it, because that's kind of how they learn. But at least they're doing so supported by you and not having to figure it out at the ripe age of 24 because they haven't seen a doctor in 3 years and now they're really sick, you know? So those are some of the ways that we are doing like 90s parenting or abandoning modern parenting. We do physical media instead of like random digital stuff that I'm paying too much money for. We do independence as much as we possibly can. We do shared family activities. And then the other thing that we do that is kind of unique to the church I go to, but it's a really good idea, is we pick one night a week to be our like screen-free family time. And it's not all day, it's like 2 hours, you know, about the time that a movie would take, and we pick an activity and the kids can be involved in what that activity is, and we try to pick things that they'll enjoy. But maybe one night we'll go hiking, and maybe one night we'll do a board game night, or maybe we'll make a new recipe together. But one night a week is like our family togetherness night, and everything else takes a back burner and it will survive and it can wait. And then here's the other thing that I do that is kind of a 90s parenting thing and kind of just like a me thing, but I don't care what your grades are. I don't care. I do not give two flying ducks if you get a B or you get a D, right? And that might sound really silly, but First of all, I am very anti-public school, but with foster care, it is what is best for the children, often that they stay in public school because they won't be in my home long term. And so to pull them out and get them used to a new routine just to throw them back in is like really not good. So here's though my principle with public school. Over a third of the people who graduate public school in this area cannot read above a 3rd grade level. Okay? They graduate illiterate, quite literally illiterate. Reading the Bible is an 8th to an 11th grade level. So like, if you graduate at a 3rd grade level of reading, you can't understand a voting ballot, you can't understand doctor's office paperwork, you can't understand. So to me, it is more important that you're learning the necessary skills and that you're doing your best than that you get an A. And as a person who is neurodivergent, who just like skirted my way through school and understand not a lick of it, and everybody was like, oh, she's so smart. Like I had people actually be like, you're probably going to be valedictorian. And I'm like, little did you know, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just really good at pattern recognition, and I just skirted my way through in A's, and I didn't understand a lick of it. Now, I wasn't illiterate. I was really good at reading, but I was illiterate when it came to math. Like, disgustingly so. Like I couldn't count change back. Like it was embarrassing learning this as an adult. And so to me, it is way more important to me that you are learning and that you are doing your best than you are getting A's. And so to me, like in my childhood, parents would like pay their kids for getting an A or like less for getting a B. And not that like everybody gets a trophy is like my philosophy either, but I think that it's far more important that you learn to read and that you understand material than that your grades are good. So if you can comprehend things and you're getting C's, I do not care. I don't care. I just care that you're trying. And sometimes, especially in foster care, kids are dealing with way bigger fish to fry than like getting a specific assignment in on time. And so if I know that they are comprehending the material and I can have discussions with their teacher about like, this is what we're doing at home to try to support their education, and we can all be together on board as a team, then I am not worried about if you get an A or B or D, because nobody cares. No one ever in my life has been like, what did you make? What was your grade in 9th grade algebra? Like, what did you get as a score on that test in 5th grade? Nobody cared. Nobody cares. So I don't care either. And I just think it's important for kids not to have so much pressure in the competitiveness and in the like, oh, we got to get you college ready. We got to get you college readiness of the public education sector, because college isn't for everybody, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that you're less than or less smart. It just means that like not everybody's going to go that route. And so I'm not going to push it on someone who doesn't want that anyway. Yeah, so that is kind of how I'm doing 90s parenting and how I'm disregarding the silliness of modern parenting, because I feel like you go out in public and these kids have so much disrespect for all the adults around them, irregardless of the adults' behavior. They have so much audacity. Like, where they found that audacity, I have no idea. And this, hear me out, I'm not saying to hit children. This is not what I am saying. Do not hit children, okay? What I'm saying is, if an adult acted in that same way, they'd catch hands. They probably would. So it's important to me that kids grow up with an understanding of the world around them and how to behave in it, than that they fit in with their friends and that they have an iPad or they have social media or they have TikTok or whatever else. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you can comment below what you think is stupid about modern parenting and what you guys do instead, or what you've seen that has worked in kids in your life or around you. I hope you guys have a great evening.